Hello everyone, welcome to episode 10, week 2 of my transformation, and I've made some pretty good progress I think. So I'll start straight off with the weight, and I've lost 8.5 pounds. So I don't know if that's water weight, you know, there can be a lot of variation, but I mean I have been checking my weight sort of every day, morning and night, with the bathroom scales that I borrowed, and you can gain and lose like £8 in a day variation depending on water and how much you've eaten and whether you've gone to the loo and stuff like that. So I don't know if that's permanent, but it has been pretty much creeping down with all the measurements that I've been taking. So that's my weight. Obviously my BMI will have dropped with that. And the good news is the ticket machine that I've been getting my weight off on the gym has finally been fixed. Not only has it been fixed, but I think they've upgraded the software. It's the same machine, but they've upgraded the software. It's also got water weight, mineral composition, which I presume is bone, and they've got protein as well, which I'm presuming is muscle. So that's 3 variables we can look at as we go on. It's just a pity that I didn't have this the last episode, because that would have been interesting to see. So the biggest one really is my blood glucose, but I'll talk about that afterwards because it kind of made me change the plan. So my actual weight has gone down 8.5 pounds, like I said, so my BMI would have gone down as well. I've got my body fat percentage reading. If you remember, I started off at 14.3%, and the last measurement that I checked before the machine broken was at the end of November, beginning of December. I think it was the 25th of November episode, and that was 20% body fat. I'm now at 21.5% body fat. So, and just to tell you what that amount of fat is, it was 9 kilograms when I started, and now I've got it written down somewhere over there, 16.1 kilograms. So, you know, pretty much 35.5 pounds of fat mass basically gained, which is actually more than the entire weight I've gained, which is a bit strange. But so that's that. I'll show you what I look like now. In fact, what I'll do is I'll put up the video from episode 1 and from the last episode. I'm calling now the transformation start episode 1, but it's actually episode 9. So I'll put that video up first, and then I'll put up the video of what I've just done, and I'll also take the tape measurement, which I already know what it is, so I'll talk about that after. So this is what it looked like before and now. I don't know if you can see in the camera or whatever, but I definitely feel like I put a little bit of muscle on top. And the tape measure. Equal. So yeah, so that looks about 36.5 inches. So that's 1.5 inches off around the waist. So there it is, that's what I look like now. If you've got any questions about what the plan is, and you know, any changes that I've made or anything that I haven't mentioned or whatever, put it down in the comment section below, and I will answer your question in the next one, and I'll give you a shout out as well. But there you go, so 8.5 pounds down, 1 inch down on the waist, I don't think I've lost any muscle. In fact, if anything, I've gained muscle. But all the fitness gurus, inverted brackets, and even some some actual fitness professionals will tell you that you cannot gain muscle on a calorie deficit. But I'm hopefully going to prove that completely wrong, because basically, I mean, I'll move on to my blood glucose now, and this all kind of ties together. So I put up a graph on for my last blood glucose readings, the same graph that I put up, and then I'll put up the graph that's included all the latest blood glucose readings for the last 2 weeks. I've taken them on a Monday, a Wednesday and a Friday. They've always been 4-hour fasting, so no food or drink before. Well, I've had drinks that are non-calories, like green tea. In fact, that's pretty much all I've eaten at work, green tea with ginger. So that's all I've been drinking. So I've been having, no drinks or any processed food that's kind of made of chemicals or anything like that. Nothing really has gone into my body that hasn't been whole food, and that's been hard. That was the original plan, and that's going to stay the plan. So onto my blood glucose. So I'll put those up on the screen now. So you can see there, as soon as I started, literally as soon as I started, my blood glucose dropped right down, and I have got it on the tablet here as well, the info that I put the graph into. So my blood glucose readings before I started, so before the last episode, I'll just read them off as I go, and I'll put the conversion up on the screen as well. So it was 5.7, 5.1, 4.5, 6.5, 5.1, and then on the Monday after, so as soon as I started doing what I was going to do, if anyone's interested in what that was, I'll put a link to the last episode down in the description below. So I've explained what the plan was. So the first one on the Monday, so just doing it for one day, my blood glucose dropped to 4.1. And then on the Wednesday it dropped to 3.9. So I'll just stop there. So on the Wednesday, when it dropped to 3.9, I thought, it is pretty. I wasn't expecting it to drop that fast. So the little blood glucose meter that I've got also takes something called ketones. So I thought, there's no way that I could have started producing ketones. Ketones are what your body makes when you start breaking down body fat. But usually, unless you're in something called ketosis, which is where you're breaking down a lot of body fat, and you're using these ketones as a main source of energy, then they won't show up, because when you eat carbohydrates, anything with glucose, your body will always turn to the dirtiest fuel or the easiest fuel to use. So if you're eating lots of glucose and then you say drink some alcohol, your body will switch straight to the alcohol and use that as energy, and it will use that over the glucose. That's why people get fatty liver disease, because while they're burning the alcohol, this glucose is going round and it's going through the liver, and it's just cut. Anything that's not used will just get turned to fat, so you get a build-up of fat in the liver. So if you're not eating that many carbohydrates and you're not drinking any alcohol, your body will then turn to a third fuel, which is these ketones. Now most of your body can run off glucose and free fatty acids, which are made in your gut if you eat. Well, everyone makes them, but you make more. If you eat a lot of vegetation and you've got a good, healthy gut microbiome, you make a lot of free fatty acids, which you can use for energy. But your brain can't use free fatty acids, your heart muscle can't use free fatty acids, and there's a few other bits and bats in your body that can't use free fatty acids. So you've got to switch over into this other mode, which is called ketosis. So I checked my ketones when my blood glucose on the Wednesday night was down to 3.9, and I was actually in ketosis already. so that was pretty good. So then basically what I did, I swapped up the diet plan. I went from my melon and my bananas and my smoothie, and then I swapped it over to basically one meal a day. Now, I know a lot of people think, you can't eat one meal a day and you're going to start feeling weak and all that kind of thing, but the only reason why we feel weak when we don't eat for 3 hours or 2 hours, whatever it is that you eat food and then insulin comes in, takes all the glucose out of your body, and then you feel weak because you've got no glucose, so you need to eat again. But if you're not running on that glucose, if you're running on ketones, that drop off, you don't get affected by it. So you can literally go days without food, as long as you're in ketosis. As long as you've got plenty of fat to burn, then you can go days without fuel, without glucose. Sorry, but I've got 145,000 calories of fat on my body, so I could literally go weeks or months without eating anything. I know a lot of people think, oh my god, you're going to die and all that kind of thing, but the biggest or the longest medically assisted fast, so not eating anything or drinking anything apart from water, is 382 days. So that's over a year. That's over a year. And obviously the guy was something like 500 pounds, he was a big guy. But he went for over a year without eating, and that was being checked by the medical profession, make sure he wasn't dying or whatever. So when you switch over to ketones, and your body gets adapted to them, so like when more of your cells start using them, you can pretty much do anything you want. You can go to the gym, you can lift heavy weights, you can give speeches or whatever. I mean, it's really like getting slowly fed jet fuel. You've got this constant, you never get tired, you get tired obviously at night, but you never get low on energy, you wake up fresh, it's a good place to be in, but it's not an easy place to be in if you don't understand how to get there. So the biggest mistake a lot of people make will be that they'll go on one of these low calorie diets, which is basically what I'm on, but they'll go on and they'll eat less in small amounts during the day. And that's pretty much the worst thing you can do, because what you're doing is you're keeping your insulin up. You might not be spiking it, but if you're eating any kind of carbs, like the man-made carbs, like the bread and pasta and all that kind of stuff, or pizza or crisps or anything like that, all you're going to do is you're going to stop yourself from going into ketosis. So you're not going to be in ketosis, and you're going to be eating less calories. So your body will need to find some more energy from somewhere, and it'll find that from your muscles. If you're not working out, you're not going to the gym and using your muscles, your body will think, well, you've got no need for them. So it's just it'll break down your muscles, it'll break down connective tissue, it'll break down pretty much anything it can to get, to turn it into glucose. So that's what your body does. Your body can turn anything in your body pretty much into glucose. So people, they might lose weight, they might lose fat, but they're also losing bone, skin, connective tissue, brain, everything. So that's why you're better off going to eating all the calories in a small amount of time rather than eating those calories stretched out throughout the day. The other thing is, obviously, I've done this before. I've been in ketosis before, so my body is kind of already adapted. I thought it would forget going 4 months without tapping into any body fat. I thought it would switch fully back to glucose. But so I'm quite lucky to not have to go through that process where my body needs to adapt. If you're going to try and adapt to into ketosis, you have to do quite a lot of research. I wouldn't advise anyone to just try and do it. In fact, I'm not advising anyone to do anything, but if this does interest you, I'd certainly go back to the last episode and do what I said for at least a couple of weeks. And there is several reasons for that, But if anyone's got any questions about it, stick them in the comment section. So the other thing, obviously I'm going to try as much, like I said before, to put on as much muscle as possible. And so I'm going to be doing something that a lot of the health gurus on YouTube and even some health professionals will say is impossible, because they all say that you cannot build muscle on a calorie deficit. And I do 1 meal a day. I mean, you can only eat so much in 1 meal, even if you cut down to a 2-hour eating window. Unless you're eating processed food, obviously, then it's easy. You can just eat pizza. But when you're actually eating whole food and you're including vegetables all the time, it's actually pretty hard to eat, to eat a lot. Especially if you give yourself a rule like the amount of vegetation you eat should be at least double any kind of meat or eggs or anything like that, which everyone pretty much should be doing anyway. So I've gone down to 1 meal a day, and I've worked out roughly. I don't really count. I don't even like counting calories. I would never suggest counting calories to anyone unless it particularly fit their lifestyle plan or anything like that. So I'm going to be going down to anywhere in between 500 and 900 calories a day. I'm going to eat it all in that one time. So like I said, these health gurus and professionals will say that there's no way I can build muscle on that. But what they don't realise is, because they're basing this on the calories in, calories out theory, which is technically correct. You can't change the laws of physics. But what they don't realise is the body fat you're carrying is part of the calories inside of that equation. If I'm eating 1,000 calories and I need 2,000 calories, the other 1,000 calories will just come straight from the body fat. If you're not in ketosis, it's not. It's going to come from your muscles and your bones and your connective tissue and all that. So it'll be interesting to see. Now I've got this this ticket that's got the bone density and the water weight and the protein, which I'm hoping is muscle, and it'll show basically whether you can put on muscle eating a calorie deficit. And I'm not just eating a small calorie deficit. I got my metabolism checked. I mean, when I say metabolism, I mean my BMR, which is my calorie need for the day. When I did my personal trainer course, I got hooked up to a proper machine, not one of them ones in the gym machine where it just goes, the machine I got hooked onto was 2 nodes on my foot, 2 nodes on my fingertips, positive, negative, all that kind of stuff. And it told me that my calorie needs were 2,800 calories. And so what I've been eating since that Wednesday is basically any meal in 1 meal, as long as it's high quality and whole food. And I've not even, because my calories are so low, I've not even had to go, 0 carb or super low carb. So a smoothie, for example, smoothie's going to have 20, 30, 40 grams of carbs in the form of sugar, obviously. But I do try and keep my smoothies actually low carb. In fact, the only thing I do put in my smoothies, I put pineapple, which everyone goes, oh my god, that it's all full of sugar, but actually pineapple's only, I think it's about 10% carbohydrate, and if you compare that to, say, cornflakes, which is about 80%, so you're talking about 80 grams of sugar per 100, or 10 grams of sugar per 100. Plus, of course, fruit has got the flesh of the fruit and a little tiny bit of fibre. It's not got so much fibre. But I always put things like spinach or kale, which is high fibre, super high nutrient. So I always put those 2 in. I always put in 1 or 2 avocados, which are super high fat and really high in fibre. There is a little bit of non-fibre carbohydrates, also full of nutrients. I've also bought some shelled hemp seed, which are quite high in fat and have got other nutrition. Some of the fat in there is omega-3, so it's good for your brain. So my evening meals since that time have been varying, anything from a smoothie, and it's not a small one. I've got it's 1.5 litres it takes of actual the actual capacity. And that takes some drinking, I'll tell you that. So I've been either having a smoothie, or I'll have something like steak, a big steak. I think the last steak I got was a 12-ounce steak with a plate full of mushrooms and some onions or something like that. Or I'll have a crock pot full of vegetables, or something like that. Or just a load of grilled chicken, chicken wings that I put my own spice on, stuff like that. So that's only on a 1 meal a day type thing. Like I say, as long you've got to keep the vegetation at a much higher rate than any kind of other, any meat. And you've also got to make sure that your meat comes from a high quality source. It's really, really important. If to me, if I had the choice of getting a prime piece of grass-fed beef from the butchers that wasn't injected with any dyes or solutions, that was sealed and put in a plastic container and put on a supermarket shelf, and that stuff comes from, it's called conventional. I don't know what's conventional about it, but these are cattle that are just lined up in a dark shed, and they're force-fed cereals, because cereals make fat and corn, and they're injected full of all this kind of stuff, and they never see the light of day, so they're basically ill. But it's okay because they're given loads of antibiotics, which obviously you're going to get as well, along with all the glyphosates, the anti-fungus and the fungicides and the insecticides and the herbicides that these mega crops are spraying. The corn, soy and wheat pretty much. So all that's fed to the animals, so you're going to get all the glyphosates from that. But then they give them the antibiotics, so obviously you're going to get a bit of bovine strength antibiotic. So if I had to pick between that meat and the meat you get from a local butcher that gets all his meat from local farms and sort of grass-fed, which I do, I'd pick that every time, and I'd go without it if I had to pick that kind of meat from the supermarket. Same with chicken, eggs, but anything, especially any kind of meat, and that extends to, obviously extends to the meat products that you buy. Sort of like sandwich meat. Sandwich meat, it isn't whole meat. It looks like ham, but it's actually sort of congealed and it's like glued together, and it's sliced up to look like ham. Like salami, same. Anything like that. It's just junk. It's junk. Nobody should be eating that. So that's what I've been eating. Just 1 meal a day. I haven't been tired. I haven't been fatiguing. I haven't been. My sleep has gone up brilliantly. Your brain power goes up. When you're running on ketones, you actually, you're running on ketones. It's called keto clarity. You've just got this constant energy supply which you cannot run out of unless you're anorexic. So what else is there? I think that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. So the next video is going to be in 3 weeks, because we've got a few things coming up, and on the 7th of April I've got a Spartan race, so that's just this, having these 3 weeks it'll offset so I'm not doing a video on the same weekend. So that's pretty much it for that. And I'll see you in 3 weeks. So hopefully the difference between now and in 3 weeks, and those, those tickets, the information on the tickets, the minerals and all that lot, and definitely what I look like. 3 weeks is a good amount of time. You should see more of a change in it, especially since I've only really been running on ketones for like just over a week. And so the more it goes on, the more my body will adapt. I've also actually hit a personal best on overhead press, so barbell overhead press. I hit a personal best, and that was after not eating for 23 hours. There's also some athletes that do 1 meal a day, and some critical thinkers in history. Ronda Rousey, multiple gold medalist at the Olympics in judo and former UFC world champion Ronda Rousey. She was on one meal a day. So it's not this crazy thing that we're led to believe. You know, it's more the other way around, where we're led to believe that you should eat breakfast, you should eat lunch, you should eat evening meal, you should eat a snack in between, you should eat another snack in between, you should eat another snack in between. And look where the world is, you know, there's obesity epidemic, you've got obese kids, you know, when I was growing up, there might have been one podgy kid in the class, and now, you know, now they're obese, and you know, diseases are going up, and this is all because we don't listen to. I know I've gone on about this kind of thing, but it's something everyone should know, and people should learn about for themselves. You know, 3 meals a day. We shouldn't even be eating 3 meals a day. You know, there's no need to eat 3 meals a day. That's why everybody's overweight, because they're eating too much. It's kind of obvious, but anyway. So now, you know, the government are even saying eat 3 meals a day and eat snacks, just like they're saying eat loads of grains. So it gives the cattle to make them fat, eat loads of grains, and it's not going to make you fat? I don't know. Anyway, rambling again. See you in 3 weeks, and have a good one.